Well guys, it has been a minute since I've been on this lake. Today we are on Lake Norman. It is Wednesday afternoon. We got a hurricane rolling in. Looks like it's coming up through the Gulf of Mexico and is going to sweep across the Carolinas here in a few days. Hopefully it will dodge this area and go further south, but we will see. I have not been out on this lake in a long time. As a matter of fact, I haven't been fishing since the BFL on High Rock in June. So to give you guys an idea, it is the end of August, so it has been a long time since I've been out fishing. I have no idea what the fish are doing. We're gonna make a little run, kind of jump around, and hopefully we stumble upon something, so stay tuned. Oh, come on, get out of there. Get out of there. All right. Here's number one. Not a bad one either. And that minima jig. Of course, there just had to be a boat. Had to be a boat right there. GoPro, stop. Throw around that bladed jig a little bit. I did get bit on it. First cast, but committing bite. There's not much wind, so it's a new Recon 2.0 bladed jig. So hand-tied skirt, tungsten head, custom blade, patented clasp, attaching the blade to the head. Everything stainless steel, bomber construction, Mustad 2X hook, super wide gap 5/0 hook. You can see the thump in that rod. So aside from that one fish on that deeper main lake dock, I didn't have any takers off on any points. So I went ahead and ran into a creek and went ahead and bounced into a few of the shallow water pockets there, hoping that, you know, maybe I would stumble upon some cruising fish. I threw topwater a lot, did toss a jig, and even tossed a wacky rig around, but I had no taker shallow. I didn't see any bluegill shallow. So I ended up going back out deep, which honestly probably was a mistake. I like to fish shallow, but it's hard to ignore a bite like the one that I had on that first dock. Guys, we have been out here for 2 hours now, and I've only caught one bass. Now that bass essentially came when I was dragging a jig off of a cross member on a dock. So it wasn't at the bottom. I did have a few bites, one on a bladed jig that was not committal, and some small fish tapped at a fluke that I was throwing around. So overall, not much productivity. I've jumped into a creek. I've checked the backs of the creeks now. I'm not seeing fish up shallow. Again, the only fish that bit was on the main lake, and I suspect that that is because of this hurricane that's coming through. So I'm gonna run back out onto the main lake, and there's not much wind, but there is a little bit, so we're just gonna try to kind of capitalize on it and run around and just fish what looks good and hopefully stumble upon something. So yeah, these creeks just not feeling them right now. Now tomorrow, if the sun comes out, which is not because the hurricane's coming, even this creek can play a different role. But you know, fish now, it all move around a lot on Lake Norman, but more than any other lake I've did fish.
Go ahead and check some deeper.
It's definitely a weird place, but we're gonna make those changes and hopefully get on
docks that had some deeper water on them that I had caught fish on in the past, and sure enough, as expected, I did come across a bite. Now, the bite was different than the one I'd had earlier. Now, I went ahead and I fished this dock with a jig, and I'd thrown a chatterbait around it. But ultimately, it wasn't until I picked up the Wacky Rig baton that I got a bite.
Not a bad one. Not a bad one at all. Summertime, Lake Norman bass fishing. He's skinny though.
Now, many of you guys know that I am a reluctant finesse fisherman. So, you know, me throwing a weightless soft plastic, even the baton, or tossing a drop shot is not my first choice. And today was a day where I was out fun fishing, and for me, this pattern just really wasn't fun.
Well guys, it is 2 o'clock and I am gonna call it. I've had 2 keeper bites, one on a jig on a main lake dock, and then the other one on a secondary point that had really deep water on it, and that one was on a Wacky Rig. What's my takeaway from all of this? Well, my takeaway is this. I should have clued in on the 2 bites I had. Now, I know that they were different patterns, a jig and a Wacky Rig. However, the location of both of them should have told me that, you know, maybe I should fish some deeper spots. Now, I did late this afternoon fish some deeper spots, but you know, too little too late, and I don't know if the bite's completely shut down at this point or if I'm just not around them. But tough day for me. You know, when you have bites like that, a lot of times, yes, you know, 1 bite is luck, and then 2 bites is a pattern, right? If you have 2 bites and the location is similar, light bulbs should go off in your head, and they did for me, but I ignored them. And that's because I'm old and I'm stubborn. And I think some of you guys probably are the same. But we've got to remember to stay dynamic and be willing to make those changes, be willing to adapt to the situations that we're facing. And ultimately, it will tend to create a more productive day, and you won't have a day like I did. So hopefully you learned something from my mistakes. And guys, appreciate you all watching, and we'll see you out on the water.